welcome to another Maplestory 2 video. Today we're going to be talking about a little bit more about stats and equipments and which stats you can get on each one of them. So this one is a compilation, I guess, a mashup of every single items that you can get in game with each stats, and credits goes to Maplestory 2 guide by Cidico. I provided another video regarding the useful links, and this time I am gonna use some of his works or all the collection of data that he collected to mash up in one image, and hopefully this will help you guys to figure out which stats to go for on each equipment. I will leave the link in the description down below so you don't have to look at the video, but let's go on with the image. So I made this image because it makes it a lot easier now to look through which stats you want to focus on, and let's go off with endgame stats first. So going off, endgame stats shown on the top right. 30% piercing is what you're gonna aim for. It's your main stats they want to go for. So piercing is a little bit more tricky. People will be asking about why don't you go for physical and magical piercing. So the thing is, piercing goes through enemies' defenses and perfect guard, which means in all total, like all the damage that you do, that's gonna be going through the defense and penetrate that. So you don't have any penalty, I guess, or reduction on the damage. So having 30% will mean that all your damage is 30%, like 30% going through as a true damage, and that's gonna be really good versus bosses in endgame. As for accuracy, I did mention 90%, or having 90 would be okay. Work yourself up to 100 or 110 if you can, and to do that you need to do gemstones and socket more accuracy or more damage into your accessories with the sockets, and you obviously have to unlock those. Probably gonna make a video about it. There's probably videos about it to, you know, unlock sockets on your accessories. But try to stack accuracy if you can up to 100. That means you're probably gonna not miss anything at all for current content. Might miss a little bit, might be, you know, guaranteed 100% when you do Chaos Raid in November. So for physical and magical piercing, that's 10 to 15%, really depends on what you prefer. It's easy to get them, especially with the weapons. If you do get the perfect or godly weapon, you're getting piercing and physical piercing in one same, like both of these stats are going to be in the same as in on your weapon, and that means you're probably going to get that cap pretty easily with the physical or magical piercing. If you're a little bit unlucky, you might have gotten piercing and boss damage, for example. That's totally fine, but if you do want to get that 10%, definitely get that physical or magical piercing on the weapon. So how do you get the 15 up to 15%? And that's regarding the gloves. The gloves has physical and magical piercing that goes up to, I believe, 4% is the cap. So aiming for that, including boss damage as a secondary stat, that would make you or have pretty solid and, you know, godly glove if you manage to get those two stats. So now that we covered up physical and magical piercing, which can be done pretty easily with the gloves and the weapon itself, what's the stats for the rest of the gear? You want to go for damage to boss, as I've highlighted on majority of the classes or the items over here. So for weapon, obviously picked up piercing and physical piercing. That's the main stats you want to go for. Secondary would be boss damage. But for equipments, you have boss damage as priority. So having boss damage as priority on your equipments or armor should net you pretty good or pretty high percentage of boss damage. And as for secondary, I would say either one of the physical attack, magical attack, or any of your main stat that you have for that increased damage. Accuracy could be something you can fiddle around with. I mean, you do lose out on damage if you do not have your main stat or the physical or magical attack, but it does serves a purpose for you if you're not picking, or if you're not lucky or finding the equipment. So accuracy is not too bad on armor as well. Now going off with offhand, we do have the shield, I believe, somewhere. The shield and the shield over here, and the codex. So codex is a little bit different. It does not have any boss damage, apparently. I'm pretty sure there's boss damage in codex, but it should be the same thing as in shield. For example, you will focus on physical piercing, and piercing and physical piercing, but for codex it's going to be piercing and magical piercing. So that's the main stat anyway, so don't worry too much. If you do happen to get boss damage, that's good, but you do want to have that piercing for your offhand. Something else that's a little bit different, shoes for example. You are going to focus on boss damage there as well, but you do have the opportunity to have either accuracy, magic attack, physical attack, or movement speed. So I would say these are pretty good stats in general. Having that slightly extra movement speed could boost you a little bit. But if you don't really like these stats, I'd say the main stat is also acceptable. I just didn't highlight it over here because I prefer having that flat physical attack increased rather than having strength that's a little bit hard to get, I would say. For accessories and such, there are plenty of accessories as we speak of. Accessories, as you can see, that's unique from certain bosses. I crossed them out because you don't need them. There are two of them that's really good. Forgotten Heart, the amulet, has piercing and magic piercing. Really good if you do happen to get it. Same thing with Balrog's wings. You get piercing and melee damage. Really good. The only downside is that you don't know which stats of these are gonna get capped or not. These two are the only stats that's available for these equipments. If you do decide to go for a cape with something else such as critical damage and piercing, you probably want to go for that, or damage to boss. Then obviously get the purple cape, which is called Absolute Cape, from the dungeons instead. But if you're playing melee, for example, Balrog's wings is pretty good. Gives you a glamour or cosmetic for having the wings as well, so that's pretty neat. But if you don't want to bother with melee damage, if you're playing some other classes, you do need to get the Absolute Cape for sure. As for Forgotten Heart, it's an amulet, has piercing and magic piercing. The gear score might be slightly lower on Forgotten Heart, so if you do get the amulet, which is on the left side over here, you could get piercing and magical piercing as well over here. Or if you're playing melee class, you have physical piercing and regular piercing on amulet. Regarding critical damage, that's most likely gonna be on your accessories as well, so you focus on piercing and then critical damage. And the reason why you don't want to put more damage to bosses, I believe it has a cap on that, but this is the only way for you to increase your critical damage, and I would suggest you to increase your critical damage with your accessories. The critical damage has a cap at 250%, so try to aim as high as possible, especially if you're playing Assassin, because you have the skill that gives you 100% crit. So having that critical damage is quite important on your accessories if you play as an Assassin. Now, you may wonder, accuracy is like not being picked that often, or you don't really see much of accuracy in these equipments, and I didn't notice that. I picked them out on the equipments as well, but they usually give you around 2 to 4 accuracy, I guess. So the only way for you to increase your accuracy up to 100 or 110 is through gemstones. So having gemstones that you socket on your equipments or on your accessories, you're gonna get a lot more accuracy or damage depending on what you need boosted up. I'll be covering up the or I'll be making a video regarding it whenever I'll need to do that on my main character, but for now I am focusing on more about unlocking the equipments with the correct stats that I need. But accuracy is the only way, or gemstones is the only way to get accuracy right now, or at least boost it quite high, except from the armor. So the image at the very bottom, I added up 3 new items. I do not have image for the Nutaman's earrings, but we do have some information about Verikant's horn, or Magnus as I call him. He has a horn that's replacing your headpiece. So if you do have a headpiece, your main stat is gonna be a boss damage and your main stat, for example. But if you do get the horns, you are gonna get cosmetic for having horns on your character, but you also get main stat +5 on each, and as well as a chance of increasing your physical and magical damage by 11%. That makes it slightly best in slot right now. If you do not care about damage to boss stat, then obviously Verikant's horns is definitely the best in slot for now. As for Verikant wings, I did mention about Balrog having the wings, which is really good for melee. But you can also get Verikant's wings, and that's an option for you to have a chance of increasing your piercing by 10% for 8 seconds. I don't know the proc rate or the cooldown, if there's any cooldown proccing the effect from Verikant's wings, but having that 10% piercing literally means this might be best in slot wings that you can get, but it also gives you cosmetic to look cool. But if you want to be on the safe side, I'd say Balrog's wings is more of the permanent stat, getting that permanent piercing and melee damage, no matter what. You don't have to proc anything. But you can also get the cape, absolute cape for example, to get critical damage, piercing and damage to boss as a stat. So if you're not into cosmetic, or if you're not into having the RNG proccing piercing, then go with the other options. Otherwise Verikant wings is also a good option to have best in slot. And for Kandura's pendant, we talked about a little bit on the Forgotten Heart as an amulet, which is also good. We also have Kandura's pendant, which gives you damage boost 3% for 20, or until you lose up to a certain amount of health. So you're gonna be losing health for every hit that you do, but you do have damage boost, which is 3%. You also get accuracy +7, which is really good if you're lacking of accuracy. It gives you 5% attack speed. So this is more of a optional, I guess, optional pendant, but you can also get an amulet, purple amulet, if you farm the hard adventure dungeons, getting that piercing instead and getting the magical or physical piercing. So I wouldn't say it's the best, the Kandura's pendant, but you know, it's an option that you can have. And it's also an option to have the Forgotten Heart amulet, which gives you piercing and magical piercing if you're playing as a magical DPS. But yeah, that will cover up all the stats. Hopefully this video will make it a little bit more clearer and easier to, you know, see which stats you want to focus on. I do know, for example, Mapleweeb has covered up regarding that and talking about it. I figured I might as well share an image. I'll link it in the description down below regarding the stats that you want to aim for. And obviously red is the good or the priority, and the orange is more of the optional in case you don't want to farm anymore. Now let's go to our game, and I'm gonna talk a little bit more about certain stuff that you could improve your DPS for endgame. I'm trying to make the video as short as possible, and I wanted to make it just about the website or the link that I had with the image that I uploaded. But this little thing, so Scion of Light increases your piercing by 4%. Having this every time, you should always have it in your house. It gives you a 60-minute buff, aka 1 hour, for 4% piercing. That's 4% more damage. So have this buff always on. Whenever you need to go to do some dungeons, go to your house, use it. You can only use it by yourself, And to locate it, you open up the furnituring mode, go to the souvenirs as category, or you can search for it, Scion of Light. You'll have it over here. It's available to place in your house, and use the buff every time you do something. Now, regarding the crafting stuff, we do have some buffs that we can use, and I believe they are in the alchemy. So going through, you are gonna see these tonics at rank 13, which increases your special or your weapon attack or physical attack, as well as magic attack. So level up your alchemy, really good. You get 3% more damage for 10 minutes. This continues as well even after you die. So yeah, 10 minutes of extra damage is really good. We also have the, let's see if I can find this, the whetstone. So whetstone is increasing your physical attack by 4% for 10 minutes. That's also something you can use, but it does last only for 10 minutes, and it goes away if you do die. This is good for melee classes, obviously, and I believe handicraft should have something, or maybe it was alchemy. It had something with the boost for magic. Let's see if we can find it. Yarrow Candle. So alchemy, Yarrow Candle will give you 4% more magic attack damage for 10 minutes as well. So that's something you can improve on your DPS if you're doing raids, for example. This might be mandatory in the future. People are gonna try to sell these in black market, so make sure to level up your crafting. As for cooking, food and such, you are gonna need food to increase your damage. I believe the only one should be crispy fried chicken, which gives you a party buff or party food buff for everyone that's within 3 meters around you if you place it down. And it will increase your damage by 6%. Really great food buff that you can have over there. There's also some other buffs that you can get from Queenstown that you purchase with daily currency and such, and I'll pull up the wallet, for example. So Javi Fruits will have some shop where you can purchase some physical and magical magical piercing gloves, but they are expiring. So if you are doing raids, for example, you are lacking of that glove that you really needed, you could use these fruits to boost yourself for 3 days and do your daily runs. As for Rue, when you do your daily quest and such, you can purchase from Alikari Merchant, and he will sell some food called Spicy Noodle Ramen, I believe, and that one is an optional, or not optional, but more of a mandatory way in comparison to the cooking, which was the crispy fried chicken, I believe. I think those two are the food buffs that you can go with, but this requires you to have the Rue, which is the daily currency that you can get if you do your daily quests. Anyways, I do appreciate that you guys are watching the videos, and obviously if you leave a like, it also makes me happy to see that people are finding it helpful. Commenting and such, feel free to do that as well. I don't think there's anything else I can cover up. I believe this is pretty much what I have to offer right now. I do wish you guys good luck with the gear and farming and such, and obviously I hope you guys have a good evening, and yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah, I have nothing else to say, so I'll be ending the video. It's a pretty long video, but I hope you guys enjoy watching this.